Today we're going to be talking about two interesting stories. One of them is about some breached water facilities.
Somebody's poisoned the water hole!
And the other one is everyone's favorite lately, Crowdstrike. We're not going to talk specifically about the incident because you've probably already heard about it. I'll touch a little bit on it, but I'm more interested in what's going on around it. And that's some of the hackers that are taking advantage of the confusion. So, welcome to another episode of Exploit Brokers. I'm Laudo. Let's jump into it. Today we're facing an unprecedented array of data breaches, hacking attempts, and surges in digital crime. Why is there such a widespread amount, and how little is noticed in our everyday lives? Malware, dark sites, brute forcing, zero-day script kiddies, and nation-state hackers are all on the rise. Learn more about the threats we face and gain a bit more knowledge than yesterday. Hey everyone, another episode of Exploit Brokers is coming to you now. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. If you could please do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe button. It helps the channel out a lot and helps us reach out to more. Hit the like as well. And for those of you who are listening on Spotify or on some podcast platform, please be sure to check out my YouTube channel, Exploit Brokers, where I'm also hoping to bring up some educational and tutorial content later. I'm hoping to bring in a bit more AI stuff as well. And for those of you on my YouTube channel, please, if you like the audio version of this, feel free to check out the podcast wherever your podcasts are, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, so on and so forth. And spread the love, hit the like, subscribe, follow me on there, and share it with friends. But let's get into it. All right, so for the first article, it's by Bleeping Computer. U.S. sanctions Russia hacktivists who breached water facilities. Someone's poisoning the water hole. So let's go down the article. The U.S. government has imposed sanctions on two Russian cybercriminals for cyber attacks targeting critical infrastructure. The group is known as CAR, or the Cyber Army of Russia Reborn. Now there's two main, there's leader and what seems to be the muscle or the legwork of it. I'm not going to go into their names, but the interesting part about this is that in January 2024, CAR claimed responsibility for compromising the SCADA, which are essentially like industrial control systems of a U.S. energy firm and manipulating a water storage unit in Texas, posting video proof of their access related to the systems. Though CAR did not manage to cause major damage during those incidents, the risk that arises from their activities is high enough to guarantee legal action. So, a lot of the time you have these SCADA or industrial control systems. I don't remember the exact acronym for SCADA, but it does mean something. But you have these industrial control systems that are responsible for sensors, motors, actuators, pretty much all the mechanical things that go into controlling something like a water plant or a energy facility, or even like refinery equipment like boilers and stuff like that, is usually controlled by SCADA systems. And if you were to get into the system that could control it, as we saw in like the infamous Stuxnet, if you can go into it and mess with it, you could cause meltdowns, explosions, depending what's going on and how much control is there, how much you can exploit it, right? In the case of like Stuxnet, they were spinning up faster and slowing down I believe the uranium enrichment, something like that. But one of the enrichment facilities, they were reporting the OK, and that caused enough damage over several months that it actually set them back quite a bit. So imagine that kind of attack here in the States and here in Texas, right? I'm a Texan, so this is local to me. If they were to get into the water system, which we've been seeing more and more stories of hackers getting into water systems, if they were to cause high levels of fluoride to go in and there's no fail-safe or like automatic shutoff that's built in, or if that's bypassed, then right there you could easily be poisoning the water supply. If they have SCADAs for, say, the water purification systems, right? The water reclamation or stuff that makes wastewater not toxic, and they were to mess with that, then suddenly you could be releasing a bunch of toxic wastewater out into the world or even back into the water supply, depending on how the municipality has it set up. So any attacks on infrastructure, on water, right? Because if you think about it, even from electrical, if you bring down even just 20% of the power supply of a state, it could cause a total meltdown of the electrical grid for that state, or for the for the Eastern Seaboard or whatever. Here in Texas is kind of its own thing where they have their own grid outside of like West Texas, because I believe they're connected to New Mexico and stuff. But once you start getting to any of this, right, the amount of damage that can be posed is staggering. And the thing about SCADAs, from what I've known, is they're not as reinforced as a lot of other systems. A lot of developers, when you develop for like embedded, I don't think security is like your number one priority, because when you're already talking embedded programming, you have run constraints, right? You're running on something that's like a tenth of the power of like an i3, depending. That's exaggeration, but I'm pretty sure there's probably something out there that's running on the equivalent of like a Raspberry Pi. And I'm pretty sure when you have memory constraints, power constraints, different hardware protocols that you have to implement, security is just one of the last things on your mind. I know a lot of SCADAs have like really old school looking web interactions, even routers, right? Even modern day routers, which are like the backbone for a lot of people. Routers have usually a website interface that looks like something out of the early 2000s, right? You're not getting flashing RGB, but you're also not getting like the latest React components. So it's just kind of interesting. And this kind of stuff is cool to keep an eye out. If we keep going a little bit further, the sanctions, even though are against two individuals, because it's not against Russia, the sanctions are against the two hackers. Even when there's no extradition, there's still some effect. So, as a result of the announced sanctions, US-based property and interest for the designated individuals are essentially blocked. Additionally, US persons are prohibited from performing transactions with these two hacktivists, while any financial institutions engaged with them may face sanctions or fines. Sanctions against individuals in countries without US extradition agreements can still effectively isolate and pressure them, disrupt their cybercrime activities, and deter other hackers from engaging with them. The US Treasury mentions the example of Dmitry Korshev, I'm probably butchering that, the leader of the Lockbit ransomware operation sanctioned in May 2024, as well as Alexander Granadovich Ermakov, again butchering that, a Russian national and member of the Revil ransomware group. If you guys been with me for a bit, you know we've talked about Revil, and they were sanctioned back in 2024, as well as a similar approach was taken in March 2024 against Zhao Gongzong and Ni Gaobin. Again, butchering, my bad. Chinese state-sponsored hackers of the App31 thread group. All this to say that sanctions, even when they're against people who are in a country that don't have extradition agreements, extradition agreements being whenever two countries say, hey, your criminals, will send them back to you, or the people who you're looking for, we'll send them back to you instead of trying to do something with them here. Unless they commit a crime there, in which case you get into this whole legality thing. I am not a lawyer. Please consult a lawyer. That's just kind of the gist of what extradition is. And that's it for this article. Let's go ahead and jump into the next one. Crowdstrike. I know. So if you guys have been keeping touch with anything recently, you may or may not have heard that Crowdstrike has caused a lot of problems for a lot of people. Crowdstrike had an issue with some of their sensors, which then caused blue screen of deaths, and it just so happens that it was on enough critical computers that part of the world kind of shut down for a bit. Yeah, sometimes the solution to something can end up being worse than the problem itself. But I'm not here to talk about the CrowdStrike thing. I am here to talk about it, just not the actual CrowdStrike thing. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of other YouTubers who've touched on that. What caught my attention is another article from Bleeping Computer. Fake CrowdStrike fixes target companies with malware and data wipers. And man, kick a company while they're down. When it rains, it pours. So, threat actors are exploiting the massive business disruption from CrowdStrike's glitchy update on Friday, and this was Friday the 19th. Friday the 19th of July. The So threat actors are exploiting the massive business disruption from CrowdStrike's glitchy update on Friday to target companies with data wipers and remote access tools, or RATs. As businesses are looking for assistance to fix affected Windows hosts, researchers and government agencies have spotted an increase in phishing emails trying to take advantage of the situation. So, criminals and hackers and spammers and anyone trying to do anything malicious usually will look for a good opportunity, panic, or confusion to try to slip in their stuff, right? Because it just makes it that much easier to get someone to double click, makes it that much easier to get someone to download or reveal information, stuff like that. There was an interesting video I came across where this hacker is calling in and she's playing the sound of like a baby in the background crying. She's sounding distressed, like she's an upset mother just trying to get access to the bank account because I believe the husband or the boyfriend locked her out and she needs to pay bills, something like that. And the person on the other end pretty much caves and gives into her, right? That's the social engineering. People tend to want to help other people, and hackers and bad actors exploit that. Well, here there's phishing emails that are going around that have been found in the wild that are taking advantage of people panicking because this shut down airports, medical, pretty much you name it, it probably got shut down, banks and other stuff. And I mean, that's kind of like the bread and butter, right? Transportation, medical, and money. It's what makes the world go around, for lack of better words. And an official channel communication. So in an update today, CrowdStrike says it is actively assisting customers impacted by the recent content update that crashed millions of Windows hosts worldwide. The company advised customers to verify that the communication with legitimate representatives through official channels, since adversaries and bad actors will try to exploit events like this. Again, through the confusion, that is when the problems come out, right? You are more likely to make a bad decision if you're panicked, tired, hungry, etc. And the UK National Cyber Security Centre, or the NCSC, also warned that it observed an increase in phishing messages aiming to take advantage of the outage. Automated malware analysis platform AnyRun noticed an increase in attempts at impersonating CrowdStrike that could potentially lead to phishing. So phishing, for those of my listeners who either aren't aware or you're tuning into this for the first time, phishing is the act where you are pretending to be something, sending out a mass email and trying to get people to do something. It's generally email. There's like SMS phishing and a few other stuff, but it generally is some sort of email that's saying, hey, your bank account got hacked, click this PDF, open it up, and then you actually get hacked. Now, malware cloaked as fixes and updates is another subsection in this article. On Saturday, which at the time of this recording, I'm going to say was the 20th. On Saturday, cybersecurity researcher Gongja, I am mispronouncing that, first reported a malware campaign targeting BBVA bank customers that offered a fake CrowdStrike hotfix update that installs the Remco's RAT, or remote access Trojan. There was a phishing site, portal intranet group O BBVA, and that's mispronounced, and .com. Please don't go to that. It's a bad website. Do not go to that. Some more, don't go to that. Which pretended to be a BBVA intranet portal. And then there was some malicious instructions, a PDF essentially. And in there was a link to download something and then you would run it. Okay, so I misspoke. AnyRun, who also tweeted about the same campaign, said that the fake hotfix delivers the hijack loader, which then also drops the Remco's remote access tool. But in addition to that one, there was also an overwrite one that was being transmitted out, and that one had a PDF. That PDF was being downloaded via PDF link. You would download it. That would be a CrowdStrike.exe, which then when you clicked it would actually run a wiper and then report stuff over on Telegram. I know, interesting and confusing at the same time, but there's two main ones that have been found so far, which is the RAT, which is the Remco's RAT being dropped by the hijack loader, and then the data wiper, which is then pretty much wiping out everything. Now the data wiper, and I quote, "This campaign was claimed by the pro-Iranian hacktivist group Handala who stated on Twitter that they impersonated CrowdStrike in emails to Israel companies to distribute the data wiper. The threat actors impersonated CrowdStrike by sending emails from the domain crowdstrike.com.vc, telling customers that a tool was being created to bring Windows systems back online. Again, they're using the chaos to get people to click and run stuff. But if you ran it, then it would ultimately get you an executable called crowdstrike.exe, which would wipe stuff, and you would have a very, very bad day. Now, Bleepy Computer does at the end kind of talk about what happened. I will paraphrase it, but essentially, CrowdStrike released a patch which modified one of their sensors, which is what kind of figures out what's wrong with the system based on what I know. It would update a Windows host file, which is how your computer knows pretty much hosts, right? So Google or local hosts, hosts within your domain, your subdomain, and your network. And that triggered a logic error, which then essentially led to the blue screen of death. That is an oversimplification, but that is the rough and tumble. No, Microsoft was not at fault, and anyone who says that it's Microsoft's fault, as far as I'm aware, is wrong. Microsoft didn't do anything. They made the Windows host file, but that the actual logic and bug here is a problem with CrowdStrike software. Now, they're not the only ones. There's other companies who have caused blue screen of death through bugs. It is just part of the nature of writing software. When you write software, you also write bugs, even when you don't want to. But that's kind of the gist of everything. Guys, please be safe out there. If you were affected, be extremely careful about anything you receive. And there is official remediations on how to get stuff back and running. Look into it. Don't just click random exes that you might get from the internet. And that goes for everything. Never click a random exe that you get from the internet. And my Mac and Linux users, you weren't affected by this round of problems, but doesn't mean you won't be affected by the next one. Also, don't click random executables that you download from the internet, DMGs or otherwise. But guys, this has been Lauda with Exploit Brokers. I thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.